Oh, look at this. I'm just noticing over there, there's a sign. It says, if at first you don't succeed, try doing it the way Mom told you to in the beginning.
Absolutely.
I had never noticed that.
I'm sure you enjoy coming by the judge's chambers just so you can have that.
And everybody else,
right
every
in front
attorney
of you.
that comes and sit in here, just do it the way Mom told you to.
And everything will be fine.
It'll be fine.
Everything will be fine. Thanks for tuning in to Keep It Legal, the show where we break down concepts, litigation, and current events with our legal experts. I'm your host, Mark Anik. Joining us today is Ashley Wright with Winston Strawn in the Dallas office, and Judge Derbha Jones of the 467th District Court in Denton County. Ladies, thank you both for joining us.
Happy to be here.
Ashley, Judge, the two of you actually know each other for many, many years. Please explain to our audience how it is that you know each other.
Well, I've known Ashley from her day of birth because I am her wonderful mother. And I hope she says that too, but that's my opinion of my relationship with Ashley.
It was good of you to add the adjective before she can speak. Do you want to add anything to that, young lady?
What she said. My wonderful mother. Because she is, yes. So she's known me since before the day I was born.
Wonderful. I have to tell the two of you, we've been looking forward to this for many, many weeks. Our producer, Alyssa Wolf, and I have really been looking forward to this. Judge, I'm trying to figure out the best way that I address you, because part of me wants to say Judge, part of me wants to say Mom, another part wants to say Judge Mom. What's the appropriate way to handle that here today?
You know, it really depends on the topic matter that you're speaking about, because I'm all of those. I'm Judge, I'm Mom, and it really depends on which point in life you're talking about. So that's really up to you. And whatever you call me, I'm going to respond to appropriately.
We'll try to use an appropriate term.
Yes.
Ashley, how do you address the court in this case?
Well, Mom, because I have not actually had to appear before her, which would actually be really entertaining and probably would not happen. She'd be like, absolutely not. Oh, it's who on the other side of the case?
Yeah.
Yes. Who else is taking this case, please?
Absolutely.
So, yes, she's always Mom to me. And even being Mom, sometimes that means she is judge and jury and sentencing committee, but mostly Mom.
I was thinking about that before, that, you know, the honor and deference that you give to the court is probably appropriate for all of those who were raised properly, right?
Yes.
You should look upon Mom as being omnipotent, all-powerful, and not to be trifled with.
That is
omnipotent, all-powerful, trifled with. She does some of that, so.
We don't need to get into the specifics.
Not right now.
Judge, I have two adult daughters, and I'm immensely proud of them. Melissa and the others in the office can tell you they get sick and tired of hearing me talk about my kids. Talk to me a little bit about what it's like for you to be sitting here, and right there is your little girl, and she's making faces, trying to make this even harder for you. But, I mean, she's Ashley. Do you prefer Ashley Jones Wright or Ashley Wright? What do you prefer?
Any of them work.
Okay.
No preference.
But she's a lawyer at an AmLaw 100 firm. Very good job. You must be immensely proud.
You know, I am. But from the time Ashley started speaking, I have always said that she was going to be a lawyer because she started talking, and it seems like she wouldn't stop. I mean, she always held adult conversations, even when she was a little girl, which amazed a lot of people at how well she could speak. Sometimes that was good, sometimes that was bad, because adult conversations in a child, you know, you got to know your place. But that was always something that, in my mind, I knew Ashley would be. But you can ask her about the road she took to get there, because she was a child, was, Mommy's that, I'm not going to be that, I'm going to go do something else. So you can talk to her about the circle that it took for her to get to where she is today. But I am very proud of her and her siblings as well.
Did you not want to be a lawyer because you were looking at Mom and she was an attorney?
So it's complicated. It's not really that complicated. I was being a teenage girl. So I think growing up, I was one that was like, I can do a lot of things. I can be a doctor. I can be a teacher. I can be a lawyer. I want to do all these things. I mean, I went to like a medical camp at one point because I thought maybe that's what I wanted to do. But my mom went to law school when I was in high school. And so I did like teen court, I did debate, but I was very much like, we already have one lawyer. We don't need two. Like, let me go and do something else. So I went to college, took the business route. I had a job that I was going to go into in like consulting. I ultimately decided to do the executive program with Target, so ended up in like retail management, and then decided I wanted to teach. And so I joined Teach for America, and then ultimately made my way back around to deciding to go to law school. But even then, I taught all the way up until graduation. So I still got to kind of do something else. So we had something other than just the lawyer in the family, but the bug was there. So I think it was always there. It truly was rebellion. Like, mom did it. We don't need those. Like, that's her thing. So let me do something else. And then here I am doing exactly what mom was doing, because that's always where I probably should have gone.
She'll never admit to this, but I need to ask, was there ever an "I told you so" when you called up and said, "Mom, I'm going to law school"?
Yes, she may not have used those exact words, but yes, there
Not
absolutely
those exact
was.
words, but it was like, yeah, I knew you would be here, you know. And she's done a good job with where she is. So my husband and I have always opened doors for our children and exposed him to various things in life, like medical. I was an X-ray tech before going back to law school. I would take her to the hospital with me for doing X-rays, not in the room, but she was exposed to that kind of career. So exposing them to, you can do whatever you want to do. You know, you just got to set your mind to it, and here we are.
I want to go back, Ashley, to the notion of law school, because that's the reason, the impetus for us sitting down today. This fall marks the 10th anniversary of the UNT Dallas College of Law, and you are one of the students from that very first class. Mm-hmm. And I was reading through their website, and it mentioned that you were asked to join them last month in September for festivities honoring that. And you talked about the slogan that they have, the little law school that could.
Right.
And you called it the little law school that has. What has that little law school meant for you?
It's meant a lot. So I talked about this too in my speech there, and I talk about it often. When I made the true decision to go to law school, I believe it was like 2012. And I was going to start, I had decided to go to a completely different law school because UNT was not even open yet. But then my now husband and I learned we were going to have our daughter, and it would have been like the first semester of law school. And I was like, yeah, I can't.
Maybe a little bit too much to heap on the plate.
Yeah, maybe a lot to be trying to figure out law and figure out how to be a mom all at one time. But it worked out because in the following year, UNT prepared to open. And so for me, it was an easy choice. One, because I enjoyed the people, like some of the founding faculty that's still there. Of course, Dean Ferguson kind of welcomed you in. They made you believe in this mission. But also, they never sugarcoated the risk of going. But it meant a lot to me to go because I was still able to teach during the day. I went part-time, still able to help provide for the family along with my husband. And it opened up doors for me that I really never would have considered. I think the beauty of UNT is that it is so well connected to the legal community and always has been. And so even coming from the little school that could, we were constantly at the now Arts District Mansion at functions. They made sure they had lawyers and judges walking our halls, Dean Ferguson telling our stories, so that we could have those opportunities to really grow and to shine. And it was through my connections there that really got me even at Winston. I mean, that was a connection from Dean Ferguson, making a connection with Matt Orwig, saying, you need to look at this girl.
Really?
Yes. And so that's how I ended up over their lunch meeting, ended up meeting with Matt Orwig, Tom Melsheimer, and others at Winston to figure out how we can make a space for Ashley, coming from a law school that naturally Winston does not hire from, and there's no sugarcoating that, right? Like, I think I might still be the only associate that came from my law school in the firm. But it was through that connection and through that law school that I was able to join Winston, that I was able to gain my clerkship with Judge Lindsay, and then ultimately come back to Winston as an associate. And I've been there ever since.
What does that say about opportunity then, that you did not come from UT? You did not come from the University of Houston or SMU or any of the other myriad schools. You came from UNT Dallas College of Law, and you are where you are now. That's remarkable.
I think so, right? I think it's only remarkable because the industry is still holding on to their elitist ideals, right? It shouldn't be so remarkable,
Right.
honestly, but it is. And that's how I know people view it that way, of kind of my journey in and of itself coming from this little law school is quite remarkable just because of how the industry kind of treats the entry into this profession. But to your point, I think it was partly making the impression on people who were credible, people that were well respected, that were associated with my law school, who were willing to put in that word for me and open the door. All they could do was open it, though. I had to walk through it, and I had to earn my keep like little Orphan Annie. Maybe not like little Orphan Annie, but ultimately, I did, right? Like every
Clarence
first year.
Darrow.
Yeah, that's probably
Like,
that's probably a
thank you.
much better,
Thank you. I'm
better,
trying to help you out
much
over
better
here.
one there.
Yeah.
But I mean, once the door was opened, right, it was really up to me to, number one, walk through it and accept that opportunity and not be scared of it, but also to show that I could hang with the big boys, with the big girls from the sister and colleague law schools. And that part was really up to me. And I will tell you, over the years, sometimes that's a little bit of a heavy burden and a lot of pressure, because a lot of, I think, how I navigate even joining Winston, because that was never, my path was never big law. I never was interested in big law, to be honest with you. I never had an interest in that. Horror stories, like, who wants to stay up all night? And they're asking a lot. Like, I have a life. I know.
You're doing it. Yeah.
They don't want to tell the secrets, Mom. They don't want to tell the secrets.
Yeah.
But there's things about Winston that I enjoy. So one of the reasons I even decided to take the Winston opportunity, one, it was for me. I was like, I'm going to a clerkship in like 10 months. If I hate it here, I don't have to return. If they hate me, who cares? I don't have to go back. I ended up really liking it, which is why I'm back. But I took that opportunity for me, but also for my law school. When it was time to clerk, I took that opportunity for me, but also for my law school. And when I think about next steps and where I see myself in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, I think about me and my family, but I also think about the law school, because I understand that it's going to be important for those of us who come from the law school to keep making these strides that we're making in order to show the legal community that we should always be considered along with other law schools that may have more name recognition, maybe higher in the rankings, because our students are fantastic. But I think it helps people to see the alums doing what we're out here doing. And so a lot of that, and sometimes a lot of pressure, because sometimes I'm like, no, I'd rather just crawl into my little turtle shell and, maybe go back and teach, but I like what I do, right? But then I also think about, all right, but I'm not doing this just for me. It's not just about me.
So we mentioned the fact that you went back to the school recently to speak during the anniversary. What other roles ongoing do you have at UNT Dallas College of Law?
Yeah, nothing formal, but when they ask me to come back and speak, I will. If it's a panel they want me to speak on with students, sometimes it's just connecting with students. They'll say, Dean Harris, Courtney Harris, they're like, she told me to reach out to you for advice on this. I will talk to students. I'm having coffee with one later this week. Just kind of about career advice and navigating the space. But then my parents also established for me as a graduation present the Ashley Wright Scholarship. And over the years, I've actually continued that scholarship, and I'll be continuing it this year as well, for students who are involved in the Black Law Student Association and have a certain level GPA. And I'm hoping to carry that on for as long as I can, and hopefully increase it over time as well.
Have you become, with your will or against it, the poster child for that school, in that you had another career? It gave you the chance to go back to school at a reasonable cost, do your job, learn at the same time. You're diverse, you're a woman of color. You check a lot of boxes. Is that a role you're comfortable with?
I think I've had to get comfortable with some people characterizing me as such. So it's really funny because some students will be like, "Oh, you're the legend," and I was like, "Please don't do that. Don't do that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that," because so many students have come along that I think are doing such phenomenal things. So I always joke. I'm like, Ashley doesn't have to always be the one to do this, and they know that. They don't always just pull me in, but I think sometimes there are people that associate with me with being somewhat of a poster child. And I haven't always been comfortable with that because I just like to do what I do. And I just do it. But I've had to get comfortable and just accept that we're still new. I mean, 10 years is still really young for a law school. And while a lot of our alums are out there just really, really doing amazing things, I think even more amazing than anything that I feel like I'm doing currently in my life, that's just kind of something I've just kind of had to accept. Whether people joke about it or whether it's reality.
But I think a lot of that is from Ashley's upbringing because she was taught to do the best that you can at a job, but you don't have to pump yourself up over it. Let your work speak for you and let others see what you do. So when she say, I just do what I do, that's the way she was trained. You do your work, let your work speak for you, and people will see that.
Judge, the two of you have many, many things in common. You're both lawyers. You're both second career lawyers. You alluded to the fact that you started out as an x-ray technician.
Correct.
I read an article about you where you told the reporter that you knew you wanted to be a lawyer from the age of 12. So how did we get from age 12, I want to be a lawyer, to I'm an x-ray tech?
So,
which is a noble work in and of itself.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I'm still licensed as an x-ray tech.
Are you? So
I
if
most
Alyssa and I
certainly
need
am.
a scan or anything,
No.
you can take care of us?
No, because they probably wouldn't let me in the hospital. I'm licensed, and I know what I'm doing. So yeah, I could take care of you, but you got to have that foot in the door. And mine's been out of the medical world for some time now. But I still keep that license up because, it's something that I worked hard for, and I'm going to keep it. And I still have connections with people. So at the age of 12, in the area where I lived in Monroe, Louisiana, the doors weren't open for little girls like me for the careers that we're talking about today. There was no law school in the area where I lived, and I had a very strict father. So when I went to college, this was, you're going to college in this area, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts. You're going there. So I had to figure out what I wanted to major in at that school, and it was x-ray technology. So I majored in that, and I was licensed for 18 plus years before going back to law school, moved to Texas, and there was a law school conveniently located at that time. Married, 2 kids, law school at night, and here I am.
What we were talking about this at the office before we came over here, and one of the women pointed this out, and I seconded it. I like to say that I raised 2 girls, but the truth is my wife raised 2 girls. I went to work every day, and she did. Went to work outside the home every day, and she did the hard part, right? What was it like for you? What's it like for a mom, to be a full-time employee, and to go to law school all at the same time? And do that presumably successfully, because we're sitting here in your court chambers this afternoon.
Well, I will say it was a lot of work, but at that time, I know it was a goal that I had. I didn't think about how hard it was. I knew it was what I wanted to do. And I have a great husband, too. I must say that. We tag team. So it's not like I did it as a single mom. But you just have to juggle, make sure your kids are taken care of. At that time, we weren't using computers a lot. We had the big books we were taking everywhere. Take those out to eat with you. Let your children talk about, Mom, why do you have the books? And they follow in your footsteps later when you're out to eat with a lot of books and computers around. So you just do what you got to do to reach the goals that you want. And it wasn't easy, but here we are.
Ashley, you're laughing as she describes that. How old were you when Mom went to law school?
I was in high school.
Okay, so you remember the books being out at the dinner table.
Oh yes, they were everywhere. It's like everywhere we went, there would be books.
Always.
And I would probably always talk about it. And then she's right, full circle. I lived with a book or a notepad, a computer, something law school related when I was going through school. So it is just funny to watch. But I think also, of course, I didn't appreciate it then, right? So like my teenage girl brain associated that time in life very differently then. And that's why she kind of jokes about like not to be trifled with. And I did some of that. Like teenage girls are already kind of like, a little rough.
Yeah.
But I think my association of like what she was doing and where she was didn't process the same way until I got older and really probably didn't even process the same way until I started going to law school, married with a kid. To fully understand, like, mom's just not gone. Like, she's not just choosing not to be available or at home. She's working towards a goal, working towards a dream. And like she said, it wasn't just like a solo effort. Like, that we had a village. Like, we had a whole gang of people, dad, people that would step in as sitters, grandparents that would help. And we had the same thing when I was going through law school. I always joke that my daughter, who's now 11, I didn't raise her. She didn't know me until she was like 5. And that's when I about graduated from law school, because my husband carried that load and honestly still does. Like, he carries a lot of the load of like getting our daughter to cheer practice, getting her where she needs to go, getting our son picked up from school. That's all him. And it only can happen with that tag team. And it was the same way in law school. When I wanted to go and do my clerkship at the Texas Supreme Court for 6 weeks, he was home with the 2-year-old. And I was living in Austin for 6 weeks, and he would come out and visit every now and then. Had some horror stories on the rides home, just fighting a 2-year-old period by yourself. So I do think it made the process easier knowing that she had gone through it. But it's also funny because that's why I say she gave me no sympathy. She's like, yep, you'll be all right. You got this, because she didn't. And I would be all right. I survived. I tell people I quit probably 12 times a week in law school, though, in my head. I quit so often.
Of course, so did I. But Ashley said it was my goal, but not only that, I wanted my girls, only girls at the time, to see this can be done. This is a goal. This is something that we can do. And I think they learned a lot from it, from seeing mom do the hard work and how it paid off. And I can see that it paid off, because I watch my girls now, and I have a son who's in college still. And it's paying off for all of them. They understand the fruits of your labor and where you can be.
Judge, that article that I mentioned before also said that your parents never got their high school diplomas.
That's correct. And that's part of hard work speaks for itself. Although they did not complete high school, they worked hard. They provided for us. We were never wanting for anything, but my parents pushed my siblings and I to get the education that they did not have. They paid for that education that they did not have. Regretfully, they didn't get to see where we are today, as most grandparents don't. But I know that they will be proud of where we are, me and Ashley and the other people in the family.
Yeah, I think pride would be pretty high. Ashley, I said second career, but you had a business career before you became an English teacher.
I did like retail management. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And then an English teacher.
Yes, I was an English teacher.
For how many years?
I don't do math well, but like about 7 years.
I have to tell you, I'm baseline nervous because I'm sitting here in front of a judge, so you always want to make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed. And she's an English teacher, and I'm just worried she's going to be literally grading my papers.
And she might.
Grammar, syntax.
And she might.
Yeah.
We do that all the time.
Does she do that to you, Judge?
We do it back and forth.
Oh, do you?
It's okay.
It's a fun game.
That ought to be a lot of fun. Was there a day, Ashley, that you were teaching English, parts of speech, what have you, and you said, I just can't do this anymore. I got to go do the thing that I'm supposed to do. Was there that, did angels sing, or was it this gradual process?
I think it was more gradual. I think what happens really, so I started off teaching in rural Arkansas for my first 3 years. And then I came and taught in DeSoto for the last portion of it. And I think just seeing things in the school system that frustrated me made me want to go into law. So my intent was actually to do either like juvenile law and focus on, some of the struggles I would see with my students and kind of helping them navigate that, or traditional school law, where I was kind of helping guide school districts and guide these governmental agencies to deal with educational issues. And a lot of that just is because of just what I saw in the system. And I think it just ended up being a timing question. So once I left my 3 years in Arkansas, I had planned to go to law school then. And like I said, until we had our daughter. And then I was like, oh, well, if I can go to school and work, I can still teach, I can still do that. So that just became kind of the goal. So I do think it was far more gradual. No no light bulb, really. It was one of the things, like I said, I thought I could be everything, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher. And I was like, well, I'll starting with teaching. Let's go be a lawyer. I have no desire to be a doctor. So
I
we
was
don't,
about to ask
no,
if medical school is
tried
in our
that.
future.
No.
We tried that with exposure to
Mm-mm.
that too, and it was like, no, I'm not
No.
doing
There was no time when she was dragging you along for the X-ray tech stuff that you said, "Oh, this
Maybe
is
then, but now that I have zero desire to go back to school. I'm happy with just this. If it were going to be anything else, it'd probably be teaching again. It's just I truthfully knew that I didn't want to teach anymore. I'm one of those people that when my gut tells me we're done here, we're done here. And I had it in my head that at graduation, I was not teaching anymore. And if I didn't have a job, we were going to figure something out. If I had to stay next year, I would, but I didn't want to because I enjoyed teaching. I didn't like being a teacher and all that came along with the demands of that. I still keep in touch with my students. My students are adults, they're married, they're having their own children. Some message me when they're in the area visiting. So I love the relationship building aspect, but I have no desire to.
Some of the things, though, you asked if it was gradual. That's just like in my career, I worked as an X-ray tech still full time after I was licensed as an attorney, had my law practice open because I needed the income. So I didn't stop being an X-ray tech even after I was licensed because I wanted to build up that practice. So about 6 to 8 months, I worked in both of the roles. And finally, I was able to cut off the X-ray job and could sustain the legal practice. So you do what you got to do.
This is why you get no sympathy. This is why I can't get any sympathy.
no sympathy whatsoever."
No, it's
So
I
it
just
never
zero.
amazes me when people do it. I'm like, okay, that's something you wanted to do. Yes, you got to take the steps to
Right.
get there.
But let me ask you something, because there may be moms out there wondering, could I do that? What advice would you have for women raising kids like the two of you, working a job, who might be thinking, maybe I should do something that's different? What would you tell them?
No, I think Ashley and I both have encouraged single women, young girls, you can do it. You just got to make that plan. Find a way to make sure your children are taken care of, whether that's daycare or a relative or a friend that you can trust with your children now. And I say that as a judge because this world is changing. So someone you can trust with your children during the time that you're in school. It's possible. You just got to look at your environment, check out the schools. There are scholarships available. There's night school you can go to and still work. It all sounds hard. It is a little bit, but it's only 4 years.
4 years part-time, yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
And you're there.
I agree with that. And I think if somebody were to be listening to this and that was their position, I would tell them to call me because I think the dynamic is changing. So like when mom went, that was a little bit more unknown, right? Like it was a little bit more surprising.
Correct.
To have a wife, a mom, make the decision that she made at that time. Now it's not as unheard of. It's actually so common that like most of the women that I know now that are going through law school are second, third careers with multiple children. So I thought it was hard with just my one. I have friends and colleagues who have gone to law school after me or with me who had 3. Some had children in law school. And I think a lot of it was you do have to make sure you just have your village intact. That's going to be huge in any endeavor, honestly, whether it's law school or anything else. You do have to have that support to make sure that you can manage all of these demands in a way that doesn't, make you feel as if you've dropped all the balls. There will be days. There will be guilt. There will be fear. There will be anxiety. All the things, the mom guilt. It's going to happen. But I think you feel better knowing that people have your back and have your support. But if they're listening and they want to know how to do it, I have plenty of women now that is their story. And I'm amazed because I was just trying to survive with one. I don't know how you're here with your 3 amazing kids and trying to navigate this life.
And you do miss out on a lot.
That is
I
true.
will
There's
say that you miss
sacrifices.
out on a lot in life. Your children growing up, activities, some of those things you won't be able to do because of time constraints. But I know it's well worth it.
Does it prove the saying you can have it all, just not all at the same time?
I believe so.
Mhm.
I believe so.
I want to shift gears just a moment because, Ashley, I have something from the Texas Law Book from a couple of years ago, and it's got this gorgeous photo of the two of you, and I need to describe it. The printout is not good, but it's a graduation day photo.
Yes.
Ashley is in full law school graduation regalia. There are cords signifying academic achievement. Judge, the smile on your face, if I can say, is ear to ear. You're hugging your daughter. And this is a piece from Law Book from February 28th, 2022. The headline says, "Once alone, now empowered." And Ashley, I want you to read for the audience, read what that says. It's your quote.
I remember this. Yes. It reads, "I embrace the opportunity and recognize the magnitude of being a Black female associate in big law, especially one who graduated from UNT Dallas College of Law. But my comfort in this did not happen overnight. It was cultivated by seeing others who look like me navigate the legal field and exude confidence, even when they may have been the only Black lawyers in the room. And while it may seem cliche, it started with my mother."
I read that sitting at my desk. Even now, my eyes well up as you're saying that. Alyssa's doing the same thing. How important was it to have a woman of color who also happens to be mom who set this kind of example?
It's incredibly important, I think, and meaningful to me. Because a lot of things at the time when she was going through law, I didn't really fully understand or appreciate it. As I've navigated kind of my own path of being like one of the only in the room on many occasions, then I was able to look back and realize, like with mom, and I think we talked about this before, where I said, I don't even know if I knew a lawyer or let alone a lawyer of color until my mom became a lawyer of color. And so, like she said, there were a lot of things that I didn't really process. There was nothing that I felt like I couldn't do. And I think that definitely had a lot to do with my parents and my mom, because I saw her do what she wanted to do. I've seen her even like on the path to judgeship, constantly do what she wanted to do, even if it meant that she had to go through the feelings of defeat, still to end up exactly where she is now and winning, right? So I think for me, it's incredibly important to see that within my own household, but it also kind of gives me that example to look to that's not far away to say that if she could, I can. Because of course, growing up here in Denton, I mean, like I said, I still don't know if I know actually a Black lawyer in Denton from growing up other than my mom. But I also am not blind to the demographics of the legal community in Denton either, and understanding where my mom fits into that and how she has navigated that with grace and with poise, being on the bench in Denton as the only African-American woman on the bench in Denton County. That it's not blind to me. And I think I always highlight those things, and I'm incredibly proud of that, because it just constantly shows me that she can. I know I can. And if I feel like I can't, I'll just go talk to her and she's going to tell me I can.
I know. And I say, if I did, I know you can, because you're younger than me and times have changed. But what I will say is this. Walking into a room, I don't think about being a minority. Of course it's there. Of course I look around the room and I'm like, oh, okay. But I'm going to do the same job everybody else in that room's doing. I just got to know my stuff and do it well, and not think of myself as the minority, because we're on the same playing field. The books you read, I got them too now. So it's just a matter of, I'm going to go back, and I keep saying, do the job, do it well, let your work speak for itself. Anytime I walked into a courtroom, I was prepared, respectful, and the judges saw that. So I didn't have to think about I'm less than or a minority, or it's like, no, there's Derbha Jones. I mean, and I hope that name, the judges knew she was going to come in prepared for her case. Whether the other guy did or not, I don't know, but they at least knew that I was going to do a good job and respectful of the court and the court's time.
I think what's interesting though too is so mom coming up as like solo practitioner, right? And like she was able to really lean on a lot of the colleagues too that are still good friends.
Absolutely.
From law school and who have blazed their own paths here in the area. I think some of the dynamics a little bit different to where I probably recognize it more when I am the one and the only. And some of that I think is just a product of big law. It's just that there are not that many African-American females or African-Americans, period, that are rising up the ranks in big law or that are in big law. It's getting better. And so more often than not, I think there's a greater awareness there for me of being like, oh, okay, just me. But to mom's point, I'm still going to do what I do. And I'm still going to do the best job that I'm going to do. I don't feel like for me, it's anything that I allow to make me act differently or operate differently than I would. But I think I'm very aware of it. I mean, even for example, at Winston, it's no secret. When I joined as a practice attorney the first time, there was an African-American partner, and there was myself as a practice attorney, and then my colleague came in as the only African-American associate. Now there's several more. But I mean, that's been growth over time. And sometimes when you have law students really thinking about where they want to land, diversity is a really big issue for them. Like it is a forefront. Like how many other people in this office look like me? Because they want to feel a sense of comfort of being around people who look like them, who may have the same experiences as them, who may perceive certain situations in the same manner they might, just because of how, like the commonality between being people of color. And one thing I have told people before, and I've encouraged people, is don't be afraid to be the first. Just really work towards not being the only. Because if you are scared to be the first one, somebody has to do it. You might be the only person of color associate in that office for a little while. But you get in there, you show your abilities, you show how amazing you are. And then you gain the credibility and respect to then advocate and fight to bring others along with you. And I feel like that's kind of where I am at this stage, right? Like now I'm at the stage of advocating and fighting to continue bringing others along to be able to have the same opportunities, whether it's big law, whether it's governmental service, whatever it is. But I always try to tell people like being the first is scary, but somebody has to be the first. And once you are the first, just make sure you're not the only. And so I think it's just kind of the nature of the practice that I'm in that might make me just a little bit more like,
We are in different worlds because I was always solo practice. My practice was mine, and I ran it the way that I wanted to, whereas she's in big law, and I don't even know how to explain what you do because I never did big law. So that's why I say I always had to be prepared because my firm name was me. It wasn't under somebody else's name. And if I made a mistake, I could, push it off under somebody else's name. No, I was it. So that's why I always went in prepared. I don't know, just prepare for my case just like everybody else would. Now, was I afraid? Absolutely, when I first started. Because there were these people that were more experienced than me and, their suits looked like they cost more than mine. And here's this little girl coming in and who is she? But when it was time for the case to start, they knew I knew what I was.
I'm going to hazard a guess that you don't have that problem now.
A little bit because I look younger than most, and I still have to let them know the courtroom's mine. I'm in control of the courtroom. So a little bit, but I have to be mindful of who I am, who's in control. But I'm still respectful of everybody because I demand respect and I give respect back. So a little bit.
Ashley, you watched your mom and you did this. Does it occur to you ever that there might be a little girl out there, maybe your own or somebody else's, that's watching you?
Yes. And I think I always think that because it's beautiful to see people that look like you doing what you think you want to do. And just because of my mentoring nature and my desire to kind of pour into those who are coming up or who are younger, I always think about that. And I always try to at least move in a way that I would be proud of if I were that little girl watching. So yeah, I know, I think there are some out there watching, and I hope that I
There are.
make them proud
There
and
are.
don't make
And-
them
and
proud.
and
My mom.
one of them is your own. I mean, your sister watched. She went in a different career path than we did, but her career path was just as hard as ours. And she had struggles like we had struggles in school, but we all knew one could do it, and they're very competitive sisters. So it all trickles down. I think it's an environment that you grow up in that will help direct your path most of the time. Sometimes not, but at least you had that foundation.
Ashley, tell us about, you mentioned that you're at Winston and Strawn.
Yes.
Tell us about your practice there. What are the kinds of matters that you're involved in on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, so my primary focus is complex commercial litigation. And so really the way our Dallas office works, any big business dispute or high net worth individuals who may have a business dispute, we are normally providing their defense services. So whether that's breach of contract, whether it's trade secret work, I have like a big toe in patent work. I do not plan to live there for the partners listening. But a lot of that employment disputes, non-compete, non-solicitation agreements, that actually is a heavy portion of my practice. And then I do small bit of federal investigations work, depending on if some of those cases come in.
Is the employment work the thing that you enjoy the most?
I think it's fun. So it's not like, of course, the traditional employment labor, but a lot of like the breach of violations of non-competes, violation of non-solicits, which is a lot of fun because it's very case specific, very fact specific. So it requires you to do a little bit more digging. There's not always a clear answer on how it's going to come down. And sometimes those cases can drag on a little bit. But
There's
I do
never
enjoy
a clear answer.
That's true.
on how cases
That's
are
true.
gonna come down.
But I do think
because then I wouldn't have a
you
job.
wouldn't have a job. You would not have a job, Mom. You would not have a job. But I do think I enjoy that type of work. But I also enjoy just the variety that I have. Because I also do like a portion of practice that's multi-level marketing companies. We have a couple of partners that do a lot of work there.
Right.
And of course, I didn't even really know what a multi-level marketing company was before I started working with them. But a lot of what I like about that work is while I do have some of the traditional litigation arbitration work, a lot of it's just like compliance and kind of like governance, where we are more so providing feedback on contracts or marketing materials to make sure that it complies with FTC guidance. And I enjoy that aspect as well because it kind of gives me that like in-house feel, but while being outside counsel. So it gives me a little different flavor to my work.
This is not a throwaway question. Do you enjoy being a lawyer?
I do. I enjoy being a lawyer. Of course, like any job, there are things that I can do without. Like any lawyer, like discovery disputes, like why must we fight? Just, you know what? Just hand it over. And then we figure out the judge can help us decide if it's admissible. We'll get to that later.
Nope,
But
the judge
why?
says discovery disputes. Why do we have to deal with that? Just figure it out.
Exactly. See? Like I can do without those. So there are aspects, but overall, yes, I enjoy what I do. I hope to be doing it for quite some time, but yeah, I enjoy it.
Boy, it'd be nice if you could call Mom in the middle of the discovery dispute. She could do what she just did,
You know what?
and it would cease.
You know what amazes me is that we don't talk a lot about what she does or what I do. We might talk about a discovery dispute. Why do we have to do discovery? But in specifics, we hardly ever talk
Yeah.
about anything.
You
like
don't
that.
talk shop?
No,
No.
not at all.
That's probably healthy.
That's probably
Yeah.
right.
But it is a lot of fun watching Ashley grow in the career that she's in. I'm really amazed that I think she surpassed me as an attorney with the knowledge that she has, the exposure that she has to the areas of law that she described. So I'm just happy watching her grow.
It has to be pretty neat as a
It is.
parent.
And a lot of people don't know that we're mom and daughter,
Correct.
attorney, judge.
She doesn't lead with that.
No, neither do I.
Is there a reason?
Yes. So I think for me, and some of this could be, I don't know, I don't know what you call it, but I have always just wanted my work and my performance and ability to speak for itself. And I just know that, again, this is just how the industry works. And a lot of places do, right? Like if you have a parent who's the CEO and like, oh, everybody knows you're the CEO's kid, like they treat you with kid gloves or they treat you differently. For me, I'm like, no, I just want to be Ashley. And if you happen to find out my mom is a judge, great. Good talk. But other than that, I just want to be comfortable knowing that I am here not because you're like, oh, her mom's a judge. This week we could use this. Not like not in like an unethical way. But
And
you know what
I
I mean?
don't want
Like,
it to be your daughter, Ashley. She doesn't know what she's doing.
oh
you
man,
know?
oh gosh, mom.
Ouch.
Oh gosh, that was a very
Ouch.
different turn. I didn't know we were going there. I didn't know that's what we were doing.
You know,
Wow.
Oh my.
you know, it's like you need to train her more.
Oh
or
my.
something, though.
But that's why so I don't also embarrass my mother when I don't do well.
Good point.
But I just always wanted to know I'm here because of me, not because I am so-and-so's kid.
You don't need me telling you this, but I'll say it anyway. That's a remarkably mature approach because we've all worked with those people who would do the opposite,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Mom agrees with me, so
Yeah.
I've got to be right.
You're right.
That's true. We didn't talk about the fact, though, about how when I didn't have a job, she wasn't going to let me work for her.
Oh, let's talk about that. Because there was a point in this discussion, I thought I was getting close to getting a chance to ask that question, and we moved on to something else. So you would not hire your little girl at your law firm.
Talk about it, Mom.
My
Talk about it,
little girl
Mom.
and I she's my little girl, you know, and she's got a very strong head, made up mind about what she's going to do in certain situations. So, no, not only that, I was solo practice doing family law, and she needed the exposure to other types of law that I could not give her. And I knew that she would be successful if given the opportunity in a different area. But working together with my daughter, I'm not so sure. I'm honestly not so sure how that would have worked out because we're two very strong women, and two women in a household running the household. Sometimes that just doesn't work well. So she needed to fly, and she has flown, and
She kicked me out of the
she's
nest.
flying well. Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's fair.
So yeah, I'm excited to see what she has done and what she's going to do. But I think she's done a lot better in the area that she's in than anything that I could offer her. So now tell your side of the story.
No, that's right. We had tried to, but this is when I was in high school. So I was confident that I had come a long way, and we could have made this work. But no.
Did you work for her at all when you were in
When
high
I was
school?
in high school, I was like,
Brief.
go help. Yes, it was
Briefly?
brief.
Brief.
It didn't work out well. I was a teenage. I was
You
in
know,
college.
and I
I've been in
think I
college
wanted to
then.
protect her from family law can be brutal. People can be mean. So I think I wanted to protect her from that environment, and I couldn't do that as employer and as mom. So there were things I didn't want her exposed to, which I never talked to her about that. But I think now that she has a daughter, she sees the kind of exposure and the life that you get in the legal field. So I think it was a level of protection as well. I just didn't want her exposed to certain things then. So it came across as, no, I don't want you working for me.
To be fair, she did say, if I absolutely had exhausted, and I like to be more dramatic about this, but because what happened is I had my clerkship lined up before I had a law position, but I had a gap year. So I would have graduated in 2018. My clerkship would not have been until I graduated in 2019. I would have started my clerkship. So I had that gap. And she did say, though, she wanted me to use the connections I had kind of built throughout law school. And if I did not have something, then we would have circled back. So it wasn't all like she was just absolutely no, you're gonna be homeless.
No, no, she could have moved home, but she would have hurriedly found a job then.
But to be fair, I knew that worst case scenario, I would have stayed teaching for another year. So it's not like all was lost. All was not lost. But I do like to joke that she would not let me work for her.
I don't think she's going to let you live that down, Judge, even though it was the right decision.
It's true. I mean, that's her life. That's the truth. I mean, there's nothing I can say about it. I plead the fifth. What do you want me to say?
Oh, that's funny.
Not something you normally hear from the court.
But that's still my right. I plead the fifth.
You still have that
Yes,
right?
I still have
ma'am.
that right.
Yes. Ashley, when you were in school, you received a Sarah T. Hughes Diversity Scholarship, right?
Yes.
And Judge Hughes, for people who may not remember, is the woman in that famous tragic photo out at Love Field swearing in Lyndon Baines Johnson after the assassination of President Kennedy. And the scholarship, I was reading about it online, it includes this quote from Judge Hughes: "Pick out your goal and then use determination and courage to reach it." And I thought, oh, that applies to these two ladies
Yes.
quite
I
well.
like it.
Yes.
I like it.
You like that?
Yeah, I like it.
So, Ashley, you first. What's the goal now?
I mean, I think I'm riding this associate wave. As of this moment, I will say that the goal is hopefully to work towards partnership at Winston. I've enjoyed my time there, get great opportunities there. And so I think that is my immediate goal. And adding to that, we'll probably decide to go and become an adjunct, more than likely at UNT Dallas College of Law, when I feel like I have a little time left with all my other extracurriculars that I engage in at the time.
That perhaps you would go back to teaching as an adjunct.
As an adjunct, definitely not full time.
Judge, what's the next goal?
I'm enjoying what I do. I'm watching my kids grow. I want to watch Ashley go to that judicial role. That's my goal for her.
She's
know.
shaking her head over
Yeah,
there.
I know. I'm not looking.
It's not looking
I'm
positive.
not looking.
Yeah, I'm
That's
seeing
just like
her.
telling her she was going to go to law school. I mean, I don't. I'm
were-
mom.
Judge, you were right about that.
I'm mom,
Yeah.
so I'm not looking at her. But I love what I'm doing right now. I really don't have aspirations to go up any higher. If I did, it would be the appellate court. I don't know if that's where I desire to be. But there are so many things I can do at this level of the judiciary, over family drug court. There's just so much I can do at this level. So I don't know.
Judge, Ashley, thank you both for chatting with us. I really enjoyed this. I hope you did
Welcome.
too.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Very good conversation.
Thank you.
Again, that was Judge Derbha Jones of the 467th District Court in Denton County and Ashley Wright with Winston & Strawn. You can visit winston.com for more information about Ashley and the firm. Make sure to like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and tune in next time to Keep It Legal. I'm your host, Mark Anik. We'll see you then.